They invited me to my ex-husband's promotion party just to disgrace me. But they didn't know the CEO was coming. And that CEO was me. You're watching African Stories That Touch. 2 years earlier. Michael Johnson wasn't a big man. He wasn't even close. The first day I met him, he was sitting outside a roadside cafe, staring into a cup of tea like the tea had answers. His shirt was clean but old. His shoes were dusty. And his face carried the tired look of a man life had humbled too many times. I should have walked past him, but something about his silence pulled me back. "Excuse me," I said softly. He looked up. His eyes were sharp, but tired. "Yes," he replied. I hesitated. "Are you okay?" He blinked, like he didn't expect kindness from a stranger. Then he forced a smile. "I'm fine," he lied. And for some reason, I sat down anyway. "My name is Grace," I said. He stared at me for a moment, like he was trying to understand why a woman like me would even speak to a man like him. "Michael," he finally replied. There was a pause. Then he sighed, like his chest was too heavy to carry the truth. "I had an interview today," he admitted quietly. "I thought it would change everything." My heart tightened. "What happened?" I asked. He laughed once, bitter. "I got there and they told me the position had been filled." I frowned. "But you are invited." He nodded slowly. "Apparently, someone more connected came." Connected. That word again. The word that opens doors for some people and locks others outside. Michael looked down at his tea. "I'm tired, Grace," he said. "I'm tired of struggling." His voice cracked slightly. And in that moment, I didn't see a failure. I saw a man who still had fire inside him, but needed one opportunity. I leaned closer. "Michael," I said gently, "don't give up." He looked at me, and for the first time, his eyes didn't look tired. They looked hungry, like a man who wanted to rise badly. That day, we talked for almost an hour. He told me about his mother, how she prayed loud prayers every morning and always reminded him, "You must not marry a woman that will pull you down." He laughed when he said it, like it was just one of those funny mother statements. But the way the words sat in my chest, I knew they weren't funny. They were a warning. Because even before I married Michael, I could already feel his mother's shadow following us. When we stood up to leave, Michael hesitated. "Grace," he said softly, "I don't even know what you do, but thank you." I smiled. "It's nothing." He stared at me like he wanted to say more, but didn't know how. Then he asked the question that changed everything. "Can I see you again?" And I don't know why, but I said yes. Because in that moment, he didn't look like a man who would ever hurt me. He looked like a man who would love me forever. And that was my first mistake. Because the moment Michael tasted success, he didn't just change. He became someone I didn't recognize. Michael didn't waste time. After that first day, he started calling me like his life depended on it. Morning calls, night calls, even random good afternoon messages that made me smile for no reason. He was sweet. He was intentional. And when he finally asked me to marry him, it wasn't with noise or money. It was simple. One evening, we sat outside my compound on a small bench, watching children run around like life was still easy. Michael cleared his throat like he was about to give a speech. Grace, I turned to him. Yes? He held my hand tightly. I don't have much, but I know what I want. I smiled softly. And what do you want? He looked straight into my eyes. You. My heart squeezed. Then he added quickly, like he was afraid I would change my mind. I want to struggle with you and succeed with you. I want to come home to you every day. And I said yes. Not because he was rich, but because he felt real. The wedding was small. No big hall, no cameras, just family, food, and laughter. But I was happy because I thought I was marrying love. I didn't know I was marrying potential. And potential can be dangerous when the wrong people are waiting to control it. The first time I met his mother, I knew trouble was coming. I wore my best dress and carried a basket of fruits like a good wife. I wanted to impress her. I wanted her to accept me. But the moment she opened the door and saw me, her face didn't brighten. It tightened. Her eyes moved from my hair to my shoes to my bag like she was searching for something wrong. Then she turned to Michael and asked without shame, "This is her?" Michael laughed nervously. "Yes, Mom, this is Grace." Mrs. Johnson didn't greet me. She didn't say welcome. She just walked back inside and said, "Come." I followed them into the living room. Mrs. Johnson sat down like a queen. Then she pointed at the chair opposite her. "Sit." I sat. Michael sat beside me, but his body was tense like he was waiting for a slap. Mrs. Johnson folded her arms. "So, Grace?" "Yes, ma." "What does your father do?" I paused for half a second, then smiled. "He's a businessman," I said simply. Mrs. Johnson scoffed. "Businessman? What kind of business?" "General business," I replied. She laughed like I was telling jokes. Then she turned to Michael and said, "Is this the kind of girl you want to marry?" Michael forced a smile. "Mom, Grace is a good woman." Mrs. Johnson leaned forward. "Good woman doesn't feed you," she said coldly. "Love doesn't pay rent." My throat tightened, but I kept my face calm because I already understood something. This woman didn't respect love. She respected money. Then she looked at me and said slowly, like she wanted the words to enter my bones, "My son is destined for greatness." She paused. "I did not suffer to raise him for him to marry someone that will hold him down." Hold him down. That sentence entered my heart like a nail. Michael laughed again, embarrassed. "Mom, stop. Grace is not like that." Mrs. Johnson waved her hand. "Michael, I'm talking." Then she looked at me one last time and added, "Time will tell." And when she said that, I didn't hear advice. I heard a threat. The marriage was sweet until shame entered the house. At first, we were happy. Not the kind of happiness that comes with luxury, but the kind that comes from laughter in a small room. Michael would come home and tell me about interviews. Sometimes he had good news. Most times he didn't. But I stayed. I encouraged him. I prayed with him. I held him together. And for a while, it worked. Until the bills started piling up. Until the rejection started breaking him. Until his mother started visiting more often. Each time she came, she dropped one line like poison. "A man without money is not respected. You are wasting your time with small dreams. You need to enter big places." And then she would look at me and add, "Grace, pray for him." As if prayer was the only thing I could offer. One evening, Michael came home looking different. Not angry, not sad, just defeated. He dropped his bag on the floor and sat down without greeting. "Michael," I called softly. "What happened?" He shook his head. "I'm tired, Grace," he whispered. I sat beside him. "Tell me." He laughed once, bitter. "I went for another interview today. They said I was qualified, but they picked someone else." My chest tightened. Again. He rubbed his face with both hands. "I'm a man," he said quietly. "How long will I keep living like this?" I didn't answer immediately because I understood. It wasn't poverty that was breaking Michael. It was shame. The shame of feeling like he wasn't enough. Then he swallowed hard and said the sentence that made my blood run cold. "My mother thinks you are the reason I'm stuck." I blinked. "What?"
He nodded slowly, eyes tired. She said I married too early. She said I should have focused on my future first. She said... His voice trailed off, but I already knew what she said because Mrs. Johnson had been saying it from day one. I forced a small smile. Michael, I whispered, your mother is wrong. But Michael didn't look convinced, and that was when I realized something terrifying. The poison was working. That night, after Michael slept, I sat on the edge of the bed and made a decision. A dangerous one. I picked up my phone and called my father. The call rang once, twice. Then his calm voice answered. Grace. Just hearing his voice made my throat tighten. Daddy? I whispered. His voice changed instantly. Is everything okay? I swallowed. Yes and no. There was silence. Then he said gently, talk to me. I took a deep breath. Daddy, Michael needs a job. Another silence. Not because my father didn't care, but because he already knew what I was about to ask. Grace, he said slowly, I warned you. I know, I replied quickly. But please, he's a good man. He's just struggling. My father sighed softly. Where is he applying? I swallowed again. Your company. The silence this time was heavier. Because Williams Holdings was not a small company. It was the kind of place people begged to enter. My father spoke again. Grace, does he know who I am? No, I answered quickly. He doesn't. Please don't tell him. My father chuckled once. Ha ha ha. You are still playing your ordinary girl game. Daddy, I pleaded. He went quiet for a moment. Then he said, okay. My heart jumped. Thank you. But my father wasn't done. Grace, listen to me. Yes, Daddy. You can help a man, but you cannot build his character for him. My stomach tightened. He continued, give him the opportunity. Let him prove himself. Then he paused and watch him closely. My chest tightened. I will, I whispered. My father's voice became even lower. Grace, the day a man discovers you are bigger than him, I held my breath, he will either protect you or punish you. My heart pounded. Daddy, Michael is not like that, I whispered quickly. My father didn't argue. He only replied, we will see. Then he ended the call. And as I stared into the darkness, I felt it. The storm was coming. Not because Michael was evil, but because success was about to test him, and his mother was ready to control the outcome. And then, the temptation arrived. The next morning, Michael got the interview. He shaved carefully, ironed his shirt twice. He looked like a man stepping into destiny. And when he finally got the job at Williams Holdings, he lifted me off the ground like a child. My big Grace, I got it. I laughed, not because of the money, but because I was happy for him. But the first thing he said next made something inside me tighten. My mother will respect me now, he said proudly. Everybody will respect me. Respect, not peace, not love. Respect. And that was when I knew. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about ego. A few weeks later, Michael came home one night and said casually, "They say the chairman's daughter is coming back from abroad." My heart skipped. I kept my face calm. "Oh," I replied lightly. "That's nice." Michael chuckled. "They said she is very beautiful, very classy." Then he added, smiling like it was nothing. "Like those women that don't even greet anybody." I forced a small smile. "Michael," I reminded him gently, "you are married." He waved his hand quickly. I know. But his eyes were curious. And that curiosity was the beginning of the end. Because the moment Michael saw her, everything changed. The temptation didn't start with a kiss. It started with attention. That Monday morning, the office felt different. Not because the air conditioning was colder, not because work was lighter, but because something was coming. You could feel it. People were whispering in corners, straightening their clothes, fixing their hair, acting like school children waiting for a celebrity. Michael walked in and frowned. "What's going on?" he asked Peter, the guy at the next desk. Peter grinned like he was holding hot gist. "Guy," he whispered, leaning closer, "the chairman's daughter is resuming today." Michael scoffed. "I beg," he muttered. "Chairman's daughter, okay?" Peter nodded aggressively. "Yes, they said she just came back from abroad, fine like model, and she's single." Michael chuckled, trying to act uninterested. "Single?" he repeated, amused. "So?" Peter shrugged. "So, men are already positioning because this one is not girlfriend material. This one is destiny." Michael shook his head with a small laugh, but his eyes didn't laugh. His eyes stayed curious, because deep down, even if he didn't want to admit it, he wanted to see her. Then the elevator dinged. The whole floor went quiet. Not silent like nobody was talking, silent like everybody forgot how to breathe. The elevator doors opened slowly, and the first thing everybody saw was her heels. She stepped out. Diana. She didn't rush. She didn't look around like she needed permission. She walked like the building belonged to her. Her outfit was simple but expensive. Not flashy, just powerful. Her hair was clean and sleek. Her face was calm. The kind of calm that only comes from a life where people don't tell you no. Even the men that normally formed boss lowered their shoulders. Even the women who always did "I don't care" suddenly cared. Michael swallowed. Because for the first time in his life, he saw a woman who looked like she was born into the world his mother always talked about. Peter nudged him. "Guy, see package," he whispered. Michael didn't respond. His eyes were locked. Diana's eyes scanned the office slowly. Not like she was searching, like she was measuring. Then her gaze landed on Michael. And for a second, she held it. Michael's throat went dry. Because it wasn't a normal look. It wasn't hello. It wasn't good morning. It was the kind of look that made a man feel noticed, chosen, important. Then she smiled, small, controlled, like a private greeting in public. Michael quickly looked away, embarrassed. Peter laughed quietly. "She done hook you already," he teased. Michael frowned. Shut up, he muttered. But his heart was already beating faster than normal. Later that day, she came to his desk. Michael was working when someone tapped his shoulder lightly. He looked up, and there she was, standing beside him like she belonged there. "Michael Johnson?" she asked softly. Michael blinked like he was dreaming. "Yes," he replied quickly, standing up too fast. Diana smiled politely. "Sit," she said calmly. Michael sat down slowly, his ears hot. Diana placed a file on his desk. She said, "I was told you handled the Benson account last week." Michael nodded, proud. "Yes, ma." Diana tilted her head slightly. "Ma," she repeated, amused. Michael cleared his throat. "Sorry, I mean, call me Diana." Michael hesitated. Then he said it quietly. "Diana." She nodded once. "Good," she replied. "I like confidence." Michael felt something rise in his chest. Not love, not lust. Something worse. Validation. Diana opened the file and glanced through it. Then she looked back at him. "I read your report," she said. "It was smart." Michael's chest lifted. "Thank you," he replied. Diana leaned slightly closer. "You're smarter than most people here," she added. Michael froze, because no woman had ever spoken to him like that. Grace used to encourage him, yes, but Grace's encouragement felt like love. Diana's praise felt like status. And Michael was addicted to status. Diana straightened up and said calmly, "I'll be needing your help this week. There's a presentation on Friday." Michael's eyes widened. "My help?" "Yes," she replied. "I want you on my team." Michael nodded immediately. Yes, Diana." Diana smiled slightly. "Don't disappoint me." Then she turned and walked away like she hadn't just shaken his entire spirit. Michael stared after her like a man under a spell. Peter rushed over immediately. He whispered. "Chairman, daughter, they talk to you like this?" Michael forced a laugh. "She just needs help," he replied. Peter shook his head. "Guy, this one no be help, na invitation." Michael frowned. "Invitation to what?" Peter smiled. "To a better life." Michael didn't answer, but his silence said enough. And that was the day Michael started coming home late without even knowing why. Michael didn't plan to betray me. That's the funny part. He didn't wake up one morning and decide to destroy his marriage. He only wanted to feel important, respected, seen. And Diana Williams was giving him all of that without stress. At the office, she kept him close. Not openly, not in a way that would cause gossip, but close enough to confuse him. She would call him into her office for quick meetings, ask him questions she already knew the answers to, laugh softly at jokes that weren't even funny. And every time she did, Michael's shoulders lifted higher, his voice became louder, his smile became proud. Meanwhile, my heart was quietly shrinking at home. Thursday afternoon, Michael was at his desk when Diana walked up calmly like she always did. "Michael," she said softly. He looked up immediately. "Yes, Diana." She placed a file on his table. "The presentation is tomorrow," she said. "I want us to go over it tonight." Michael blinked. "Tonight?" he repeated. Diana nodded like it was normal. "Yes," she replied, "after work." Michael hesitated for half a second because in his mind he saw me in the kitchen, cooking, waiting, trying. But before his conscience could finish speaking, His pride answered first. Okay, he said. Diana's lips curved slightly. Good, she replied. Pick me up by 7. Michael's heart jumped. Pick you up? He echoed. Diana tilted her head, amused. Unless you want my driver to bring you, she said calmly. Michael laughed nervously. No, I'll pick you up. Diana smiled. See you later. Then she walked away, and Michael sat there staring at his screen, but his mind was no longer in the office, because deep down he knew the truth. This wasn't about the presentation anymore. This was about him. And temptation always starts like that. Small, normal, reasonable, until it becomes a secret. That evening, at home, I served Michael dinner like I always did. Rice and stew, his favorite. I even added extra meat because I could see the stress on his face lately. Michael ate quickly, checking the time every second, not enjoying the food, just rushing. I watched him quietly. Are you going somewhere? I asked softly. Michael didn't look up. Yes, he replied. My heart tightened. Where? I asked. He swallowed. Office, he said. We need to rehearse something for tomorrow. I blinked. By this time? I asked carefully. Michael frowned. Grace, it's work. I nodded slowly. Okay? But my voice wasn't okay. It was small, like someone trying to convince herself she wasn't being replaced. Michael stood up and picked his car keys. I followed him to the door. Not to stop him, not to fight, just to hold him for one more second. Michael, I called quietly. He turned. Yes? I asked. Will you be back early? Michael sighed like I was disturbing him. He doesn't know, he replied. Then he added without thinking, Stop behaving like my mother. I froze. Those words hit harder than a slap. Because I had never tried to control him. I had only tried to love him. Michael saw my face and quickly softened. I didn't mean it like that, he muttered. But the damage was already done. I forced a smile. Drive safe, I whispered. He walked out, and as the door closed behind him, I stood there staring at the empty space he left. Then I slowly walked back inside, sat on the couch, and held my chest like something inside me was cracking quietly. Diana's dinner wasn't loud. It wasn't wild. It was classy. Soft music, a private corner table. Waiters moving gently like they didn't want to disturb important people. Michael felt out of place at first. He kept adjusting his collar, kept clearing his throat, kept trying to act like he belonged in that world. Diana watched him calmly. Then she smiled. She said, You are nervous. Michael laughed. No, I'm not, he lied. Diana leaned forward slightly. Relax, she said. You're doing well. That praise again. That drug. Michael's chest lifted. He smiled. He said, Thank you. Diana sipped her drink slowly. So, she said, tell me about yourself. Michael hesitated. Myself? Yes, Diana replied. Your dreams, your plans, what you want from life. Michael's eyes brightened immediately. This was his favorite topic. He started talking, and Diana listened like his words were gold. She nodded at the right moments, smiled at the right moments, made him feel like the most important man in the world. Then she asked casually, like she was just making conversation. Are you married? Michael's heart skipped. Yes, he answered quickly. Diana tilted her head slightly. Happy? She asked softly. That question was dangerous because it wasn't a direct temptation. It was a door. And Michael opened it. He shrugged. It's fine, he said. Diana's eyes softened like she understood. Fine is not happy, she replied. Michael cleared his throat. Grace is a good woman, he added quickly. She supported me when I had nothing. Diana nodded slowly. And now? She asked. Michael didn't answer. Because now he didn't want to think about it. Diana smiled gently. Sometimes, she said quietly, when a man grows, he needs a woman who matches his new level. Michael's chest tightened. His mind flashed to me. Simple, quiet, always understanding. Then he looked at Diana. Elegant, powerful, admired. And in that moment, Michael's weakness showed itself, not in his body, in his mind. Because he started thinking, what if my mother was right? When Michael got home, the house was quiet. It was almost 11 p.m. I was on the couch, half asleep. Not because I was tired, but because I was waiting. Michael entered quietly. For a second, guilt scratched his chest. He cleared his throat. My eyes opened immediately. You're back, I said softly. Michael nodded. Yes. I sat up slowly. How was work? I asked. Michael avoided my eyes. It was fine, he replied. I nodded. Okay. Then I stood up and walked toward the bedroom without another word. Michael followed behind me. Inside the room, I sat on the bed and removed my scarf quietly. Michael sat beside me. He wanted to say something kind, something that would erase the distance between us. But instead, he said the worst thing. You don't have to wait up for me, he muttered. I froze. Then I turned slowly. I wasn't waiting to control you, I said softly. I was waiting because you're my husband. Michael sighed loudly. Grace, you're too emotional. I stared at him. Emotional? I repeated, almost whispering. Michael shook his head. You're always asking questions, always looking sad, always acting like I'm doing something wrong. My throat tightened. I'm not acting, I said quietly. I'm feeling. Michael stood up suddenly. Good night, he muttered, and turned away. I watched him lie down, watched him turn his back to me, and something inside me finally broke. Not with shouting, not with drama, just with a quiet tear sliding down my cheek in silence. The betrayal didn't start with cheating. It started with Michael choosing another woman's world over his wife. Michael didn't plan to cheat. That's what made it worse. Because the most dangerous betrayals are not planned. They happen when someone keeps opening doors they should have locked. At first, it was work. Then it became late meetings. Then it became, don't ask me too many questions. And before Michael knew it, he wasn't protecting his marriage anymore. He was protecting a secret. Diana walked up to Michael's desk around 6:30 p.m. Her voice was calm, like she wasn't about to shake a man's entire life. Michael, she said softly. Michael looked up quickly. Yes, Diana? Diana placed her laptop bag on the desk. I want us to rehearse somewhere quiet. The lounge upstairs is empty. Michael blinked. The lounge? Diana nodded. Yes, she replied. It's private, no distractions. Private, no distractions. Michael swallowed hard. His chest tightened for a second because his conscience was trying to warn him. But his pride replied faster. Okay, he said. Diana smiled slightly. Good. Then she walked ahead, and Michael followed, like a man following his own temptation. The lounge upstairs was too quiet. Soft lights, cold air, a long glass table, and silence. The kind of silence that makes people say things they shouldn't say. Diana sat across from Michael and opened her laptop. She said, "Start from slide 1. Michael began. He spoke well. He was sharp, and Diana listened like a queen judging her soldier. Halfway through, she leaned back slowly. "You're good," she said. Michael smiled. "Thank you." Diana's eyes stayed on his. "You're not just good," she added softly. "You're special." Michael froze, because men like Michael don't forget the first time a powerful woman makes them feel chosen. Diana closed her laptop gently. Then she asked the question that always destroys a home. "Does your wife understand you?" Michael's smile faded. He should have defended me immediately. He should have said, "My wife is my backbone." But instead, he sighed. "She tries," he muttered. Diana nodded like she understood. "Trying is not the same as matching," she replied.
Michael swallowed hard. Diana stood up and walked around the table slowly. Not rushing, not seducing, just moving close enough to confuse his brain. She stopped beside him. Not touching, just close. Then she whispered, "Michael, you deserve a woman who will grow with you." Michael looked up at her. His breathing changed. His heart was beating too fast. Because the truth was, Diana didn't need to remove clothes to tempt him. She only needed to remove his dignity. Diana gently placed her hand on his shoulder. One simple touch. Just one. And Michael's hand moved without permission. He held her wrist, not forcefully, just stopping her from leaving. Diana looked down at his hand. Then she looked at his face. "Michael," she whispered. That whisper sounded like permission. Michael stood up. Now they were too close. Too close to think. Too close to turn back. He leaned forward and kissed her. It wasn't long. It wasn't wild. But it was betrayal.
Diana froze for 1 second, then responded slowly. Not with passion, with confirmation. Confirmation that the test was working. Michael pulled back suddenly. His eyes widened. "What did I just do?" he whispered. Diana touched her lips lightly, like she was surprised too. Then she said softly, "Maybe you've been wanting to do that for a long time." Michael shook his head quickly. No, I didn't mean..." Diana interrupted him gently. "It's okay," she said. "You're human." Human! That word was the excuse, and Michael grabbed it like a drowning man. He picked up his phone quickly. "I have to go," he muttered. Diana nodded calmly. "Go," she said. "We'll talk tomorrow." Michael rushed out of the lounge like a thief, not because anyone chased him, but because his conscience finally woke up. When Michael entered the house, I was stirring soup. The smell of food filled the room. The house was warm, peaceful, the kind of peace men don't value until they destroy it. I turned and smiled softly. "You're back early," I said. Michael didn't answer properly. He dropped his keys and went straight to the sink, started washing his face like he wanted to wash away what he did. I frowned. "Michael, are you okay?" Michael wiped his face and turned. His eyes were red, not with tears, with guilt. But he didn't confess. Instead, he did what weak men do. He became angry. "Why are you always asking me questions?" he snapped. I froze. "I'm not..." Michael cut me off. I'm tired, Grace. I'm tired of your face always looking like you want to cry. My eyes widened. Michael, I whispered, shocked. He walked past me and entered the bedroom. I followed slowly. Did I do something wrong? I asked quietly. Michael turned sharply. You are doing too much, he shouted. I stepped back like the shout slapped me. Tears filled my eyes instantly, but I tried to hold them. Michael, I whispered, please don't shout at me. For a second, for just 1 second, he almost softened. Almost. Then his phone buzzed. A message popped up, and I saw it. Not the message, just the name. Diana.
My heart dropped. I stared at the phone. Then I stared at Michael, slowly, quietly. Michael, I whispered. My voice was shaking now. Who is Diana? The room went silent. Michael's breathing stopped. His eyes widened. His mouth opened, then closed, because he knew the secret was out, and my world was about to collapse. He didn't answer me, but his silence screamed louder than any confession.
I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I didn't start screaming like a mad woman. I just stood there, staring at his phone like it was a knife pointed at my chest. Michael, I repeated, softer now. Who is Diana? Michael swallowed hard. He looked away. Just someone at work, he replied quickly. I blinked. Someone at work, I echoed. Why is she texting you by this time? Michael's jaw tightened. Because we're working, he snapped. My heart squeezed. I took 1 step closer. And why have you been angry every day? I asked, my voice shaking. Why are you suddenly treating me like I'm your enemy? Michael exhaled loudly, like I was stressing him. Grace, you're doing too much, he said. I stared at him. Doing too much? I whispered. His phone buzzed again. I saw his hand move fast. He turned the screen away. That one movement was proof of secrecy. And secrecy is the first step of betrayal. My throat tightened. I sat down slowly on the bed, like my body suddenly became too heavy to carry the pain. Michael sighed. You see, he said, pointing at me like I was the problem. This is why I'm tired. Tired of what? I asked quietly. Michael paced the room like a frustrated man. I'm tired of your insecurity, he snapped. I'm tired of you monitoring me. I'm tired of you acting like I'm your child. My eyes filled with tears, but I held them back, because I knew if I cried too much, he would use it against me. He would call me weak. He would call me dramatic. So I swallowed my pain and asked the question that mattered. Michael, my voice shook. Did you cheat on me? Michael stopped pacing. He turned sharply. Cheat? He scoffed. Grace, are you mad? I shook my head. I'm not mad. I'm asking. Michael laughed, dry and annoyed. You think I'm that kind of man? I didn't answer, because the truth was, he was already acting like that kind of man. His phone buzzed again, and again he hid it, and again my heart cracked. I looked up at him slowly. Michael, I said softly, is there someone else? Michael's face tightened. Grace, he said slowly, What is wrong with you? I swallowed. What's wrong with me is that I don't recognize my husband anymore. The room went quiet. Michael stared at me. Then he said something that cut deeper than any slap. You don't fit. I blinked. Fit? I repeated. Michael's voice grew stronger, like he had been rehearsing this speech in his head. You don't fit into the world I'm entering. You're too emotional, too ordinary, too small. Small. That word hit me like thunder, because it wasn't true, not even close. But I had chosen to be small for him. I stared at him like a stranger. Michael, I whispered, I supported you when you had nothing. Michael scoffed. Yes, he replied, and I appreciate it. Then he added the sentence that killed me completely. But I can't stay small because of you. My chest tightened. Michael, I whispered, I never asked you to stay small. Michael looked at me coldly. But you are small, he replied. That was the moment I knew. This marriage wasn't dying. It was already dead. Michael picked up his phone and walked out of the room. And I heard him making a call. Then I heard the words that made my heart drop. Mom, I can't do this again.
Mrs. Johnson arrived like she had been waiting. She didn't knock. She entered the house like she owned it. Michael, she shouted, come and sit down. Michael walked out looking tired. I followed slowly behind him. Mrs. Johnson's eyes landed on me and her face twisted in disgust. So you've started again, she said. I blinked. Started what, ma? I asked quietly. Mrs. Johnson pointed at me. You want to destroy my son's future with your useless suspicion, she snapped. My throat tightened. Ma, I didn't. Shut up, she barked. I flinched. And Michael? Michael didn't defend me. That silence was louder than any insult. Mrs. Johnson turned to him dramatically. My son, she said, you are entering greatness. You cannot carry dead weight. Dead weight. I felt the words enter my chest like poison.
Mrs. Johnson continued. This is the time to focus. This is the time to upgrade. This is the time to marry a woman that matches your level. I turned slowly to Michael. My eyes begged him silently. Say something. Fight for us. Defend me. But Michael avoided my eyes. Mrs. Johnson leaned closer to him like a devil, giving instructions. Michael, she whispered loudly enough for me to hear. Leave her. My breath caught. Michael stood up slowly. The room started spinning. Michael, I whispered. He looked at me. His face was blank, like he had already decided. Grace, I think we should end this. End this? I laughed softly, one small laugh filled with pain. Because I asked who Diana is, I whispered. Michael's jaw tightened. It's not just Diana. It's everything. What everything? My voice cracked. I cook for you. I support you. I pray for you. I never cheated. Michael interrupted sharply. I'm not happy. My heart stopped. Not because I didn't love him, but because I realized love was no longer enough for him. Mrs. Johnson nodded proudly, like she had won. Michael continued, louder now. I'm not happy, Grace. I feel trapped. I feel like I married too early. Too early. Like I was a mistake. Like I was an accident. My lips trembled. So, you're divorcing me? I whispered. Michael hesitated. For a second, guilt tried to speak, but pride was louder. He nodded once. Yes.
My knees weakened. I sat down slowly on the couch. Mrs. Johnson smiled like a woman watching her enemy fall. "Good," she said. "At least you have sense." I looked at Michael again. My voice was shaking now. "Is there someone else?" Michael didn't answer, but his silence screamed the truth. I nodded slowly. Then I wiped my face and stood up. "Okay," I whispered. Michael blinked, confused. "Okay," he repeated. I nodded again. "Yes," I said softly, because I refused to beg. Not because I didn't love him, but because I finally understood something. A man who is already leaving will only use your begging to insult you more. I walked into the bedroom, pulled out a small bag, packed quietly. Michael followed me like he didn't believe what he was seeing. "Grace," he called. I didn't answer. He stood at the door watching me. "Are you really leaving?" he asked. I paused. Then I turned slowly and looked at him. My eyes were red, but my voice was calm. "Michael," I said softly, "you're not divorcing me because I'm a bad wife." He didn't speak. I continued. "You're divorcing me because you think you found something better." Michael swallowed. I nodded once. "I hope it gives you peace." Then I carried my bag and walked out. Mrs. Johnson followed behind and shouted loudly, "Good riddance!" I didn't look back, because the moment I looked back, I might break. And I refused to break in front of people who planned my pain. But what none of them knew was that the same door they closed on me was the door that would open my throne.
Michael didn't wait long. That was the part that hurt the most. Not the divorce papers, not the insults, not even the silence. It was how fast he moved on, like I was never real. 3 months. That was all it took. 3 months after our marriage ended, the wedding banners were already everywhere. Big, colorful, loud, like a celebration of my humiliation. The day I saw it, I wasn't looking for Michael. I wasn't stalking. I wasn't searching. I was just standing at a bus stop, holding my bag, waiting for transport, when a woman beside me suddenly gasped, "Ah, see this wedding, no?" I turned slowly, and there it was, a large billboard poster. Michael Johnson, smiling like life finally rewarded him, standing beside Diana Williams, elegant, classy, untouchable. The caption under the picture read, "Michael Johnson and Diana Williams, a celebration of love." A celebration of love. I stared at it. My chest tightened. My throat went dry. My fingers became cold. Not jealousy, not anger, just disbelief. So fast? So easy? Like our marriage was just a trial version, and Diana was the real upgrade. The woman beside me laughed. "Ah, this man don't hammer oh. This one don't enter life." I couldn't breathe properly, because while people were praising him, nobody remembered the woman he stepped on to rise. I turned away slowly and walked home like a ghost. That night, I finally broke. When I entered my room, I locked the door. Then I sat on the floor. Not the bed, the floor. And I cried. The kind of crying that is quiet but deadly. The kind where your chest burns and your throat hurts, but no sound comes out, because even tears were tired. I covered my mouth with my hand, not because I was trying to hide it from someone, but because I was ashamed. Ashamed that I ever believed love was enough. Ashamed that I ever thought loyalty would be rewarded. Then I whispered the truth to myself. He didn't just leave me. He replaced me. The wedding was everything Mrs. Johnson had dreamed of. Big hall, expensive decorations, powerful guests, cameras everywhere, luxury cars outside like a billionaire's parking lot. Mrs. Johnson walked around the venue like she was the one getting married. My son has arrived. My son married well. My son is now connected. She wore her best lace. Her smile was loud like victory. People whispered in admiration. That boy is lucky. He married chairman's daughter. This one don't enter life. And Michael soaked it all in like a sponge. He smiled until his cheeks hot. He greeted everyone like a king. That day, he wasn't marrying Diana. He was marrying status. He was marrying respect. He was marrying his mother's dream. And as Diana walked down the aisle, the crowd stood up like they were witnessing royalty.
Diana looked perfect. Soft makeup, calm smile, eyes steady. She held Michael's hand and cameras flashed like thunder. Michael looked at her like she was his trophy, and he felt proud because to him, this was the upgrade. But something was strange. Diana was smiling, but she wasn't glowing. She held his hand, but her fingers were cold. She laughed when people laughed, but her eyes stayed serious. It was like she was playing a role, like she was completing an assignment. But Michael didn't notice. He was too busy enjoying his new life. That night, after the wedding, they entered their bedroom. Michael sat on the bed beside her, still smiling. "You are beautiful today," he said softly. Diana turned her head slowly. "Thank you," she replied. Michael frowned slightly. "That's all?" he asked, trying to laugh. Diana stared at him. "Michael," she said quietly, "we are married now." Michael nodded. "Yes." Diana continued, her voice calm but firm. "Let's respect each other." Respect. Not love. Not "I missed you." Not "I'm happy." Just respect. Michael's smile slowly faded. He nodded again. Of course. But something inside him shifted. Because for the first time, Michael realized he didn't marry a woman who needed him. He married a woman who could leave him without blinking. Meanwhile, I disappeared. Not because I was weak, because I was tired. I changed my phone number, moved away, stopped attending gatherings where people would pity me. I didn't want sorry. I didn't want "you'll be fine." I wanted silence. I stayed with my father for a while. He didn't ask questions. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just let me breathe again. The promotion didn't just make Michael happy. It made him arrogant. Because now it wasn't just "I have a job." It was "I have power." The HR manager shook his hand in front of everyone. "Congratulations, Michael Johnson," she announced. "From today, you are the new head of operations." The office erupted. Applause, cheers. Michael glanced around, enjoying the attention like oxygen. Some people clapped because they were happy for him. Some clapped because they had to. And some clapped because they were already afraid of the new Michael. Diana stood beside him, clapping slowly. Her smile was calm, controlled, like she was watching a movie she already knew the ending of. Michael leaned close to her and whispered proudly, "You see,
I told you I'm not small. Diana smiled politely. Yes, Michael. But her eyes didn't shine. They watched.
That evening, Michael drove home like a man returning from battle. He blew his horn loudly, one long blast, like the whole street needed to know. Mrs. Johnson rushed out immediately. "My son!" she screamed. "My big man!" She hugged him like he was a newborn baby. Michael laughed proudly. "Mom, I did it!" Mrs. Johnson held his face with both hands like she was blessing a king. "You did it because you listened to me. You see, a man must upgrade." Michael nodded, smiling. Diana walked in behind him quietly. Mrs. Johnson glanced at her with satisfaction. "Diana, well done," she said proudly. "You brought luck to my son." Diana smiled politely. "Thank you, ma." Michael dropped into the couch like a king. "I want a party," he announced. Mrs. Johnson clapped. "Yes," she shouted. "A big party." Michael nodded. "I want everyone there," he said. "Colleagues, friends, everybody." Mrs. Johnson smiled wider. "Good," she replied. "Let them see." Then her face changed slightly. Her smile became sharper, more wicked. "And there is one more person that must be there," she added. Michael frowned. "Who?" Mrs. Johnson leaned forward slowly and said the name like it was a curse. "Grace." Michael's smile froze. Grace. The name he hadn't said in months. The name he tried to bury under new soothe and new respect. Michael cleared his throat. "Why?" he asked. Mrs. Johnson scoffed. "Why?" she repeated. "So she will see what she lost." Michael hesitated. For a second, guilt tried to rise, but pride pushed it down. He nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. Mrs. Johnson's eyes lit up. "Good," she shouted. "I will call her myself." 2 days before the party, Mrs. Johnson sat in her living room with her phone in her hand, smiling like she was about to commit a sin and still go to church. Michael sat beside her, scrolling through his phone like he didn't care. But he cared. He just didn't want to look weak. Diana sat across the room, legs crossed, pretending to read a magazine. But she wasn't reading. She was listening. Mrs. Johnson clicked her tongue. "This Grace thinks she can just leave and move on," she said. Then she leaned closer and whispered like a devil advising her soldier. "When she comes, don't greet her too much," she warned. "Let her feel it." Michael smirked. "I know," he replied. Mrs. Johnson smiled. "And make sure Diana stands beside you. Let her see the upgrade clearly." Michael glanced at Diana. Diana lifted her eyes slowly. She smiled politely, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Mrs. Johnson dialed my number. It rang once, twice. I picked up. "Hello?" Mrs. Johnson's voice became sweet instantly. "Grace, my daughter." Diana's brows lifted slightly at the fake affection. Michael smirked. My voice stayed calm but guarded. "Good evening, ma." Mrs. Johnson laughed lightly. "How are you? It's been a long time." I didn't answer immediately, because what kind of person destroys your home, then calls to ask how you are? Mrs. Johnson cleared her tongue. "I am calling because of Michael," she said. "He has been promoted." My chest tightened, but I replied softly, "Oh, congratulations to him." Mrs. Johnson smiled. "Thank you," she said like she was the one promoted. Then she dropped the bait. "We're having a small celebration on Friday, a party. You should come." I went quiet. My heart beat once, hard. Mrs. Johnson added quickly, "No bad blood. We are adults. Come and celebrate him. Life moves on." I swallowed. "Why are you inviting me, ma?"
I asked calmly. Mrs. Johnson smiled wider. Because you were once his wife, you should be happy for him. Silence. Then I said the words that shocked even me. Okay, man, I will come. Mrs. Johnson's eyes shone. Good, she said quickly. Don't be late. The venue will be sent to you. She ended the call immediately and burst into laughter. She's coming, she announced. Michael chuckled. Good, he said. Mrs. Johnson leaned back like a woman satisfied with evil. Let her come. We will finish her confidence that night.
Diana finally closed her magazine slowly. She looked at Mrs. Johnson and Michael. Then she said calmly, You people are cruel. Mrs. Johnson scoffed. Cruelty? She repeated. Is it cruelty to show someone reality? Diana's eyes stayed steady. No, she replied. It's cruelty to enjoy someone's pain. Michael frowned. Diana, don't start, he warned. Diana stood up. I'm not starting anything, she said. I'm just saying. Then she walked away quietly. But as she entered the bedroom, she pulled out her phone and sent one short message to a number saved as Uncle. He has agreed. The party is on. He will fail completely. That night, Michael practiced his party speech in the mirror, not knowing the same party would bury his pride. After the call ended, I sat on my bed for a long time. The room was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts like noise. My phone lay beside me like a small bomb, because I knew Mrs. Johnson. That woman didn't invite people to celebrate. She invited people to suffer. I stood up slowly and walked to the mirror. I looked at myself. My face was calm, but my eyes carried the memory of pain. 2 years ago, I walked out of Michael's house with one small bag. No shouting, no fighting, no begging. I carried my heartbreak with dignity. And now, they wanted to see me again. They wanted to measure me. They wanted to laugh. My fingers trembled slightly, not because I was scared of them, but because I was scared of myself. Because I didn't want to break down in public. I didn't want to cry in front of people who didn't deserve my tears. So I did the only thing I could do. I called Ruth Davis. Ruth answered like fire. Ruth picked up on the first ring. Grace, baby girl, what's up? I swallowed hard. Ruth, Mrs. Johnson called me. There was silence. Then Ruth's voice dropped. That witch? Yes. Ruth exhaled sharply. What did she want? I answered. She invited me to Michael's promotion party. Ruth laughed once. Not the funny kind. The angry kind. Grace, don't go. I closed my eyes. I already said yes. I whispered. Ha! Ruth almost shouted. Grace, are you okay? Why would you say yes? My voice was quiet. Because I'm tired of running, I replied. Ruth went silent. Then she spoke softer. Grace, you don't have to prove anything to them. I know, I whispered. But I need to prove something to myself. Ruth sighed deeply. Okay, she said finally. If you must go. Her voice turned hard again. Then you will not go looking like a woman they broke. My throat tightened. Ruth! No! She cut in. I'm serious. Where are you? I'm coming. Before I could argue, she ended the call. Then my phone buzzed again.
A new message popped up. Unknown number. Good evening, Grace. Don't be afraid. Just come. My stomach tightened. I sat up straight. My fingers moved fast. I typed, "Who is this?" No reply. I stared at the screen. Because the message didn't sound like Michael, and it didn't sound like Mrs. Johnson. It sounded like someone watching from the shadows. Someone who knew what was coming. Someone who wanted me there. I placed the phone down slowly. My heart was beating too fast. A knock came. I opened the door, and Ruth walked in like a storm, 2 shopping bags in her hands. Her face was serious. She didn't even greet properly. She looked at me from head to toe and said, "Grace Williams, if they want to disgrace you, they will be disappointed." I blinked. "Ruth." She dropped the bags on my bed. "Tonight, we are going there with dignity." My eyes stung. "Ruth." "No," she cut in. "I'm serious. Now, stand up, let me see your face." I stood quietly. Ruth touched my cheek gently. Then her voice softened. "Grace," she whispered, "don't let them take your smile. You already paid too much." I nodded slowly.
Ruth opened one of the bags and pulled out a dress. Simple, but stunning. Not too flashy, not too cheap. Classy, clean, powerful. I stared at it like a weapon. "This is too much," I whispered. Ruth rolled her eyes. "I beg, it's not too much, it's enough." She turned me into a woman they couldn't break. As I changed, Ruth fixed my hair. Light makeup, not heavy, just enough to bring back my face, the face I lost when I was crying quietly at night. Ruth stepped back and looked at me. Then she nodded. "Good," she said. "Now listen to me." I looked at her. Ruth held my shoulders and stared into my eyes. "They will provoke you," she warned. I nodded. "They will try to embarrass you," she continued. I nodded again. "But you," Ruth said, voice firm, "you will behave like a queen." My lips trembled. Even Ruth's voice sounded emotional now. She added softly, "Even if your crown is invisible." I swallowed hard. "I'll try," I whispered. Ruth shook her head. "No," she corrected. "You won't try, you will." On the way there, I felt it. As we drove to the venue, I stared out of the window quietly. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was calm. Not because I wasn't scared, but because I accepted something. Whatever happened tonight, I would not beg. I would not cry. I would not give them satisfaction. And deep down, I felt it. This night was not ordinary. This night was a turning point. Ruth parked and turned to me. "Remember," she said, holding my hand, "no shaking." I nodded. "I won't," I whispered. Then we stepped out of the car and walked into the hall. They thought I came to be humiliated, but I came to be revealed. The moment we stepped into the hall, the whispers started. Not normal whispers, the kind of whispers that cut. "Is that Grace? That's Michael's ex-wife. What is she doing here?" My chest tightened, but I kept walking. Ruth held my hand tighter like a bodyguard. Then I saw them. Michael, Mrs. Johnson, Diana, standing near the stage like they owned the night. Mrs. Johnson spotted me immediately, and her face lit up like she had been waiting for a sacrifice. She walked toward me with fake sweetness. "Grace!" she shouted loudly. "So you actually came!" I forced a small smile. "Good evening, ma." Mrs. Johnson looked me up and down slowly. Then she smiled wider. "At least you tried," she said. Some people around laughed softly. Ruth's jaw tightened.
But I stayed calm. Mrs. Johnson held my arm like we were close and dragged me toward a table near the front. Not too close, not too far. The perfect seat for humiliation. Then she turned to the crowd and announced loudly, "Everybody, let us welcome someone special." My stomach dropped. Mrs. Johnson pointed at me like I was an exhibit. "This is Grace, Michael's first wife." Gasps. Whispers. Soft laughter. Mrs. Johnson continued proudly. "She was with him when he had nothing." She paused and smiled. "But some people cannot follow a man to success." The hall murmured. I sat down slowly. My face was calm, but inside my chest, something was burning. Michael walked over with a smug smile. "Grace," he said, nodding like I was a stranger. "Fine." That was all. Not "how are you?" Not "thank you for coming." Just fine. Diana joined him, holding his arm like a trophy. "Hi, Grace. Nice to see you." I nodded politely. Mrs. Johnson leaned close and whispered loudly enough for people to hear. "Sit and watch so you can learn what you lost." I didn't respond because silence is sometimes the loudest answer. Then the MC started the madness. The MC climbed the stage with energy. "Ladies and gentlemen," he shouted, "tonight is a special night." Cheers, music, applause. The spotlight turned to Michael. Michael stood up like a king rising to take his throne. He adjusted his suit, smiled confidently, and walked to the stage. Mrs. Johnson's face was glowing like Christmas. Diana stood beside her, smiling calmly. Michael took the microphone and raised his hand. "Thank you, everyone," he began. "I'm grateful to be here." The crowd cheered. Michael continued, "This promotion is not just about me. It's about growth. It's about knowing your value." I stared at him. My mind flashed back to the days he couldn't afford transport, the days I fed him with hope. Now he was speaking like he built himself. Michael's eyes found me in the crowd, and his lips curved slightly. Not a sweet smile, a cruel one. Then he said it. "And it's about leaving behind people who were never meant to go far with you." The hall erupted. Cheers, claps, laughter. My ears rang. Ruth's fingers tightened around my hand. I didn't blink. I didn't cry. I just stared at him with quiet disappointment. Michael continued confidently. He said, "Sometimes you have to upgrade," he said. "You have to choose what matches your future." Mrs. Johnson clapped loudly like she was in church. Diana smiled politely. My chest tightened, but I still didn't react because I had promised myself no shaking. Michael raised his glass. "So tonight we celebrate success," he shouted. The crowd cheered again. Then Mrs. Johnson leaned close to me and whispered with satisfaction, "You see, that is a man." I turned slowly and looked at her. My eyes were calm, but my voice was cold. "Yes, ma," I replied softly. "That is a man." She smiled, thinking she had won. She didn't know my calmness wasn't weakness. It was control. After the cheers died down, the MC laughed and said, "Wow, big man, we love your speech." Michael smiled proudly. Then the MC pointed toward my table. "And tonight, we also have a special guest in the house." The crowd turned. "Our brother's first wife is here." Laughter filled the hall again. My stomach tightened. Ruth almost stood up, but I touched her hand gently. She sat back down, boiling inside. The MC continued joking. Madam Grace, we greet you all. Thank you for your contribution. More laughter. You helped build the man we're celebrating. Michael stood on stage smiling like he was enjoying it.
Then the MC asked the question they wanted to kill me with. Madam Grace, how does it feel seeing your ex-husband shine like this? The hall quieted slightly. All eyes turned to me. This was the moment they wanted, the moment I would break. Mrs. Johnson leaned forward, smiling wickedly. I stood up slowly, not rushing, not shaking, just steady. I took the microphone. My voice came out calm. Good evening, everyone. The hall went quiet. I looked at Michael. Then I looked at the crowd. I'm happy for Michael, I said simply. Some people nodded. I continued. I came because I was invited. And I don't like running from my past. The hall murmured. I smiled slightly. So yes, congratulations to him. Then I handed the microphone back gently and sat down. No drama, no tears, no fight. The crowd didn't know what to do because they expected a broken woman, but they saw a calm one. Michael's smile faded slightly. Mrs. Johnson's face tightened. Diana's eyes narrowed in quiet respect. Just then, the doors at the back of the hall opened. The music lowered. The MC paused mid-laugh. A wave of tension moved through the room like wind. A security man stepped forward and shouted, "Attention! The chairman is here." Instantly, everyone stood up. Even the proud ones. Even the arrogant ones. Even Michael. Michael's face changed. Because the chairman wasn't someone you played with. This was the man who could make or break careers with one sentence. Mr. Williams stepped inside calmly. Tall. Controlled. Powerful. Two men walked behind him. The hall went silent like church. Mrs. Johnson straightened her galley quickly. Michael swallowed hard. Diana's fingers tightened around her purse. Mr. Williams's eyes scanned the room. Then, his gaze landed on me. And for a brief second, his expression softened, like a father looking at a child. Then, he walked straight to the stage.
The MC rushed to hand him the microphone. Mr. Williams took it calmly. "Good evening," he said. The hall replied like soldiers. "Good evening, sir." Mr. Williams nodded once. "I came to make an announcement," he said. The hall held its breath. Then he said, "I am retiring from active leadership." Gasps. Whispers. Michael's eyes widened. Mrs. Johnson grabbed her chest. Diana smiled calmly like she already knew. Mr. Williams paused. Then he said the words that froze the whole hall. "And tonight, I will introduce the new CEO of this company." Michael's eyes lit up instantly. Mrs. Johnson's face brightened like she was about to faint. Michael's heart pounded. He stepped forward slightly like the position was already his. Then, Mr. Williams looked straight at me and said, "Grace Williams." He paused. "Please stand." In that moment, Michael finally realized the woman he mocked was the woman holding his destiny. The hall went completely silent. Not the normal silence, the kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air itself stopped moving. "Grace Williams," Mr. Williams repeated. "Please stand." My heart beat once hard. Ruth looked at me like her eyes were saying, "It's time." I placed my palms on the table slowly and stood. And the moment I stood, a wave of whispers exploded like fire through dry grass. "That's Grace, Michael's ex-wife. Why is Chairman calling her name? What is happening?" Michael's face changed. His smile didn't just fade, it collapsed. His mouth opened slightly, like he wanted to speak, but no sound came out. Mrs. Johnson's eyes widened. Her lips trembled. Diana Say stayed calm, but her eyes watched me like she was watching the final scene of a movie.
Mr. Williams raised the microphone again. He said calmly, "Many of you know me as your chairman." "Yes, sir," the hall responded. He nodded. "But tonight, I'm not speaking to you as chairman alone." His voice grew softer. "Tonight, I'm speaking as a father." My chest tightened. Mr. Williams turned slightly and stretched his hand toward me. "Grace," he said gently, "come." I walked forward, step by step. He didn't rush me. He didn't announce it quickly. He let the tension build. He let them suffer in confusion. Because some revelations deserve to burn slowly. When I reached the stage, Mr. Williams looked at me with pride. Then he turned back to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice steady, "this is my daughter." The hall exploded. Gasps, shouts, confused whispers. People stood up like they had seen a ghost. Mrs. Johnson staggered backward slightly. "Jesus," she whispered. Michael's knees almost gave way. He blinked rapidly like his eyes were lying to him. "No," he mouthed silently. Mr. Williams continued. "My daughter has returned from abroad. She has worked, studied, and prepared." He paused. "And from today," his voice turned firm, "she is the new CEO of Williams Holdings." The room spun. Some people clapped nervously. Some people didn't even know whether to clap or kneel. Because the woman they mocked was now their boss. Michael stood frozen. His suit suddenly looked too tight. His pride drained out of him like water. He stared at me like I was not human. Like a punishment. Mrs. Johnson grabbed his arm tightly. "Michael," she whispered in panic. Michael didn't answer. Because his brain was doing calculations. Grace. CEO. Grace. Chairman's daughter. So the job, the promotion, everything was because of her? His throat tightened. His pride cracked. And for the first time in a long time, Michael looked afraid.
Mr. Williams handed me the microphone. My fingers wrapped around it gently. Not shaking, not angry, just calm. The calmness of a woman who has survived humiliation and now stands in power. I looked at the crowd. Faces everywhere. Some shocked, some ashamed, some suddenly respectful. I smiled slightly. "Good evening, everyone," I said. The hall replied in a confused chorus, "Good evening, ma." I nodded.
Then I looked directly at Michael. My voice stayed soft but sharp. "Michael Johnson," I called. Michael flinched like my voice slapped him. Yes, ma," he replied quickly. The hall went dead silent. I paused for a second. Then I said the line that made people's mouths open. "I want you in my office by 8 a.m. on Monday." Michael swallowed hard. "Yes, ma," he whispered. I continued calmly. "Bring your resignation letter." I paused. "Or bring your best explanation." The hall gasped. Mrs. Johnson almost screamed. Michael's eyes widened like a man drowning. I leaned slightly forward. "And Michael?" He looked at me like he was about to cry. I smiled softly. "Welcome to the world you said I didn't fit into." Silence. Dead silence. Even the music man didn't breathe. Mrs. Johnson rushed forward suddenly, voice shaking. "Chairman, sir, please," she cried. Mr. Williams looked at her calmly. "Madam, this is not your house. Control yourself." Mrs. Johnson turned to me instantly. "Grace, my daughter, please, it's a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding. The same woman who called me dead weight, the same woman who screamed, "Good riddance," now calling me my daughter. I stared at her quietly. Then I asked calmly, "Madam, what misunderstanding?" Mrs. Johnson's lips trembled. She couldn't answer, because wickedness has no explanation when it is exposed. Diana stepped forward slowly. She looked at me with calm respect. Then she smiled, small and controlled. "Congratulations, Grace," she said. I nodded. "Thank you, Diana," I replied. Michael turned sharply to Diana like a man waking from a nightmare. "Diana, you knew?" Diana looked at him. Her voice was calm. "Of course I knew," she replied. Michael's face twisted. "Then why—" Diana cut him off. "Michael," she said, "you wanted to upgrade." She paused. "So I upgraded you into your punishment."
Michael's mouth opened. No words, just shock. Diana turned away smoothly, like she had completed her mission. And in that moment, Michael realized the truth. He didn't marry love. He married strategy. And as I stood there in power, I didn't feel joy. I felt peace. Because the same people who broke me were now bowing. Monday morning came too fast. Not for me, for Michael. Williams Holdings was unusually quiet that day. Not because people weren't working, but because everyone was waiting. Waiting to see the woman they mocked walk in as their boss. I arrived early. No convoy, no drama. Just me and calm. A clean white blouse, a fitted black skirt, simple heels. Classy, not loud, because real power doesn't need noise. As I walked into the building, staff members stood up like the air changed. "Good morning, Ma. Good morning, CEO." Their voices were respectful, but their eyes were full of fear. Not fear of me, fear of what I might do. Because people always assume a woman who was once humiliated will return with fire. But I didn't come with fire. I came with standards. I entered my office, sat down, opened my laptop, and said calmly into the intercom,
Send Mr. Johnson in. The secretary hesitated. Yes, ma. A few seconds later, the door opened slowly, and Michael walked in. The man that entered wasn't the Michael from Friday night. That Michael was loud, proud, cruel. This one looked like someone who didn't sleep. His eyes were red. His shoulders were heavy. His suit was still expensive, but it couldn't hide the shame hanging on him like smoke. He stepped closer. Grace, he whispered. I didn't look up immediately. I finished reading the file on my screen. Then I raised my eyes slowly. And the first thing I said wasn't Michael. It wasn't my husband. It wasn't even, are you okay? I said, good morning, Mr. Johnson. His face twitched. Because that title alone was a boundary, a wall, a door he could never enter again. Yes, good morning, ma, he replied quietly. I nodded once. Sit, I said. He sat down slowly, like his legs didn't trust him. Silence. I let it stay. Because silence is powerful when someone is guilty. Michael cleared his throat. Grace, he tried again. I lifted one finger gently. This is an office, I said calmly. Michael swallowed hard. Yes, ma. I leaned back slightly in my chair. I reviewed your staff records, I said. Michael's eyes lifted with small hope. You are hardworking. His face softened a little. Then I paused, and the pause killed him. But your character, I said slowly, is weak. Michael's lips trembled. He nodded like a child being scolded. I know, he whispered. I didn't insult him. I didn't shout. I didn't bring out all the pain because I didn't need to. Life had already embarrassed him publicly. So I spoke like a leader, not like an ex-wife. From today, I said, you will report directly to the operations director. Michael blinked. Yes, ma.
You will not step into my office unless you are invited, I added. His throat tightened. Yes, ma. And you will not speak to me outside work, I finished. Michael's eyes widened. Grace! His voice broke. I didn't flinch. Mr. Johnson, I corrected him calmly. His head dropped. Yes, ma. Michael stood up suddenly. He couldn't hold it anymore. Please, he whispered. Then his voice cracked. I'm sorry. I stared at him quietly. He continued. I didn't know your father was... I raised my hand gently again. Michael, I said calmly. He froze. That was the first time I used his name. And it was not love. It was closure. You didn't need to know who my father was to respect me, I said. His eyes filled with tears instantly. I know, he whispered. I nodded slowly. He wiped his face quickly. Grace, please, give me another chance, he begged. I stared at him. Then I said the sentence that ended the discussion forever. I didn't survive you to return to you. Michael froze. His mouth opened, but nothing came out, because he knew that was the truth.
And that was how Michael Johnson lost the best thing that ever happened to him. Not because Grace became CEO, but because he became proud. Because the truth is, Grace didn't change. She was always valuable. She was always a queen. She only hid her crown because she wanted love to be real. But Michael didn't know how to respect a woman when she looked ordinary. He only respected power. He only respected status. He only respected what other people could see. And that's why he failed. Because a good man doesn't love a woman because she is rich. A good man loves her because she is loyal, because she is peace, because she is home. That night, Michael didn't just lose a wife. He lost a woman who believed in him when nobody did. He lost a woman who carried him when he was weak. He lost a woman who prayed for him when he was broke. And the painful part? Grace didn't punish him with revenge. She punished him with silence, with standards, with moving on. So if you're watching this story today, let this be your lesson. Don't mock the person who supported you when you had nothing. Because the same person you call small today might be the one holding your destiny tomorrow. Don't wait until someone becomes successful before you respect them. Respect is not something you give when it benefits you. Respect is who you are. And to every woman watching, never beg a man to choose you. If he can't see your value while you're still building, he doesn't deserve you when you shine. Because the right man will not be intimidated by your greatness, he will be proud of it. And that is the end of this story. The moral is simple. Never downgrade loyalty just because you want an upgrade.